So if, like me, you've been waiting for Final Fantasy VII Remake for just about as long as you can remember, then stay tuned because something huge is going down at Square Enix, but I've got a bad feeling they're about to rush the whole damn thing. Okay, what's good, my fellow peasants? How you all doing? So this story broke, I think about a few days ago or half a week ago, when Square Enix released their financial reports going forward, and they dropped some pretty huge goals, which a lot of people thought could only mean a huge AAA HD game was going to be released around the holiday season this year. Now the reason why that is because the fiscal year of third quarter 2020 for Square Enix is around about October to December 2019. Don't ask why, that's just how it is. And what they're aiming for is absolutely major, so it's 40 to 50 billion yen. Now to break that down, so I've got so many notes here. The thing is, when this story came out, I did see it, but I didn't want to cover it because Final Fantasy VII Remake, honestly, I have got to a stage where I don't care when it comes out, but I care even less about speculating every little time it's possible. Oh my god, Final Fantasy VII Remake's coming. It's just so easy when a company aims for crazy high schmeckle goals for everyone just to point to their favourite speculative game and say, it's coming. But after waiting a few days and really digging around and researching what's happening in Square, there is definitely a story to be had here. So the 50 billion yen goal, just to give that a bit of context for us, that's about 451 million US dollars. Now that is a huge amount. That is bigger than their quarter threes of last year, even their quarter threes of 2017. That is even bigger than what they got in the third quarter of 2016, which was when Final Fantasy XV came out. Final Fantasy XV. So 241 million yen, dollars, sorry. I thought I would try to break that down into games. If this is a major game release of some sort, how many sales would they be expecting? Of course, not all of this is going to be from a single game, not at all. But if we take a basic price of $60 for a game, now if we deduct tax and margin for the reseller, Square Enix are left with about 40, then we take off the distributor's cuts, so down to about $35. And then even with poor countries, they may even pay as low as $25. So if we say just between $25 and $35 per unit price, which is 15 million units shifted in a single fiscal quarter. That is massive, and of course that doesn't necessarily mean it just has to be games. Again, there could be other products. We've got collector's editions, deluxe editions, merchandise, we've got the mobile divisions, and this is just operating income we're talking about. Operating income is a very broad term for a company. It's not necessarily revenue. Revenue is what you make from the product sold, but operating income, you can make those numbers in a whole plethora of very sneaky ways, and that's why I wanted to do this video, to go and consider all of the possibilities of where this insane goal is coming from. That has got a lot of people thinking it can only mean major game release, and I've got to say, it certainly does imply some kind of release. There's no way that kind of money is coming from Square Enix getting a bit frugal with the coffee budget at the office. Alright, it's coming from somewhere huge. So fiscal year 2020 of third quarter, 40 to 50 billion yen. Now the only comments that we had, and it was pretty vague, here it is. So I cannot go into any detail at the moment, but I believe we will be able to make various announcements in the lead up to this year's E3. So there we go, there's the hint already, that whatever's going to be making this huge barrel of money is going to be appearing at this year's E3. So it is a game. It is some kind of product. Now, how likely are you to reach that target that they planned for 2020 third quarter? And he says, we believe operating income 40 to 50 billion will be attainable with the lineup we currently have planned. But we still see risk of deviating from our target. There's such a key line there. Depending on when we release new titles and on how our development efforts progress. Oh, Square, you sneakers. I've just got such a strong gut instinct. about what Square Enix are doing. They've done this rodeo before, and this is why, as much as I think it is actually possible, this could be referring, I'm going to say, I think it could be referring to Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know that some of you are already about to go into the comment section below. Oh, no chance Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake. We know it's not happening. But before you go and start typing that, just hold out. It's very possible that it could be Final Fantasy VII Remake related. That this could all be Final Fantasy VII Remake related. But why I'm actually thinking if it is, this could be catastrophic. This could be bad. This could be Square rushing the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which honestly, for me, that's the worst outcome. I don't care when the game comes. I've been petitioning for this for 10 years. I've wanted Final Fantasy VII Remake long before you ever announced it. But my love and passion for this title actually happening at some point is irrespective of you, Square. But if you rush it because you want to try to make up a fiscal year report, that's simply trying to massage the numbers because you've had some pretty disappointing figures of late and your investors are giving you a little bit of a grilling. So diving into it, Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Just Cause 4. Two titles that are massively playing a role in these figures because they both got off to, by Square Enix's own admission, a very slow start. So one of the questions asked is, will either of these games, sluggish starts, affect the goal for 2020 quarter 3? I'm just going to call it quarter 3 now. That'll make it so much easier. And the question, or the answer was, while Shadow of the Tomb Raider got off to a weak start, we had shipped a total of 4.12 million at the end of Q3. As well as initial sales of Just Cause 4, which were below expectations, they also intend to grow those sales in quarter 3. And they plan to do it by offering updates and through other initiatives. As such, any adverse impact on the achievement of our medium target should be limited. I mean, I'm not naive enough. I get it, Square Enix are a company. They're here to make money. It's the entire purpose of why they're even in existence at this point. I get that, but it's still a bit sad, isn't it, when you can just tell that things like DLC and patches and content being put in, it isn't there to increase the art of what they've put out. It's not there from an actual creatively we want to improve this. It's just there to massage the numbers of a fiscal quarter. But continuing on, so why did Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Just Cause 4 get off to a weak start? If initial sales volumes are lower than they traditionally have been, but digital sales are extending the lifetime of games, don't you need to change the timing of your advertising efforts? Boom! Okay, so that's actually one bit that I quite liked. Square Enix getting asked that if your initial sales aren't doing that great, are you advertising these games properly? Are you advertising them too soon? Is your hype train picking up too quickly and then running out of steam? I mean, we all know it, to release their games and trailers from way too early. Start hinting and teasing them before they're even really conceptually anywhere. Now, there's only one reason why Square Enix does that, and it's to get their shares up. It's to get their portfolio looking a bit bulkier and healthier. We know it, they know it. And, for example, even when Final Fantasy VII Remake got announced, Square Enix's share price jumped up overnight just from the announcement. Now, and that's all well and good, but eventually when the steam runs out and initial sales aren't as good because people have either forgotten or got exacerbated or other things have just happened around that era, well, then your shareholders are going to come knocking and saying, you kind of pulled a sly one on us. And I've got to say, I like that Square Enix is getting called out on it because they got to stop this bullshit. But their response anyway was, we think the main reason is that we were unable to provide an experience that was novel enough that players would choose to buy them before any of the numerous major titles on the competitive landscape. So basically, we don't think our game was as good as what was out at that point. More or less. Also, while it is true that we are seeing a shift away from the sale of boxes to digital downloads, with many titles competing with one another, initial sales are definitely an important element in increasing user awareness. So for that reason, we do need to engage in a certain amount of advertising just ahead of a new title's launch. No one is doubting, Square, that you need to do a certain amount of advertising, but certain doesn't mean 5 poxy years before even the sniff of a release date. Like, I actually think this is what this line here makes it even more possible that Final Fantasy VII Remake could be what's getting referred to with this Q3, because now their shareholders are getting pissed with it. Us fans have long been pissed for it, but of course they don't care. You know, it doesn't matter that with Final Fantasy VII Remake, we've grilled them for announcing it too early. Nomura's even admitted they've announced it too early. Look at what Kingdom Hearts 3 did. Look at what Final Fantasy 15 did. Square are becoming that company that announces games too early. And it doesn't matter how many times they pissed around us fans. It's when they start pissing around their shareholders that they're actually going to start taking notice. So now we also have Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Just Cause 4 potentially having its sales affected by far too early announcements. This all just makes me think that if Square have even the slightest brain left in the head, that they are going to have to make sure that the next game trailer that they put out, the game itself, is no more than 6 months to 12 months on the horizon. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and I know that's why in the comment section below, you know, everyone's gonna be like, Pez, this is Square, you know, Square, they have at least 2-year minimum hype train build-ups. No, why would we expect any of that to change now? Well, these are the reasons. And it makes sense because now we're hearing that of October to December this year, a huge influx of cash is going to come from somewhere, but on the horizon we know of only in AAA at least, Final Fantasy VII Remake and the Avengers project. That's pretty much all we know. Avengers project, we've not even seen anything outside of a teaser trailer. Well, we don't know anything bar that. So while a lot of people said, no, it's more likely to be the Avengers project, I've really been considering that. So Endgame is coming out. When is coming out? Is it March? Well, sometime this year. Anyway, Endgame, that's going to be the end of a Marvel era. And while a lot of people have said, oh, they could be doing a Q3 Avengers project game to try to piggyback off of that movie, I agree with what a lot of other Marvel fans have said, is that if they're going to a new era of Marvel where a lot of the old heroes are retiring, or actors are retiring, and we already know that they're going to be trying to bring in a whole new roster of characters, and even the trailer itself. No, you did see, you saw Iron Man's thingy broken. I think the shield was broken. What looked like the dying of the old Avengers and a rebirthing into the new one. That's what could be taken from the trailer. And Captain Marvel, which is going to be hitting fairly soon, is kind of there to set up the new universe. So basically what I'm thinking is I'd see it as more likely that the Avengers project is going to be like a 2020, maybe 2021 kind of deal, to try to introduce this new universe of characters and promote them. That seems more likely than out of literally nowhere. You know, we have heard nothing about Avengers project. We've not even heard that they plan to do anything this year with it. It seems less likely that that's going to be the one that's going to be coming out in Q3 of this year. Whereas when we go over to Final Fantasy VII Remake, that has been teased, that Nomura has said is going to be coming to this E3, and we're going to be hearing various presentations. Who admitted that after Kingdom Hearts 3 would become the center spotlight of focus for Square Enix, who did admit, even before KH3 came out, that 7 Remake was further along in certain cutscenes than even KH3 was. Could it be coming, guys? Let me quickly go over this in a really comprehensive way. Square Enix can be making a shite load of cash between October and December. They've said that it's going to be attributed to something shown at E3 and major titles, because hitting this 40 to 50 billion yen target is wholly dependent on them hitting certain deadlines. I mean, there was even another section that said it. The valuation losses depending on the timing at which we release new major titles in fiscal year 2020, third quarter and beyond. Announcements in the lead up to this year's E3, FF7 Remake, various presentations to be showed. I mean, I know how unlikely it seems that the remake could come in 2019. Believe me, I have given up trying to convince myself that the remake is coming sooner. I've given up with that. But we can't deny that Square, with that kind of goal, have something in mind. That they are clearly hinting at something, and with really nothing being on the horizon, it could be the remake. But I'm going to say why if it is, I think it's going to be wholly for the wrong reasons. That it's going to be rushing the remake, and it could be potentially devastating on the game. And I can't just remind, we're talking about the game. We are only talking about part 1. Square are still planning, as far as we know, to do this as a multi-parter, to do this as a... They say the word episodic is a bad word because it makes it seem like it's going to be shorter than a full game, which they have promised us is going to be a full game, but this is where I get scared. You see, with everything that has happened with Final Fantasy VII Remake, with the reputation it's building up and the impatience that is growing, and now we have Square Enix around a time where 2 of their other major releases haven't performed as well as they've wanted by their own admission, again Shadow of Tomb Raider and Just Cause 4, and they're getting questions from their shareholders. Why isn't it doing so well? Why haven't I been able to buy a new fucking Lamborghini this month? Square Enix needs to come up with something. They need to come up with something. They need to pull something out of the ether to rescue the situation. Basically what I'm thinking is they are going to rush the development of Final Fantasy VII Remake, simply to try to hit the quarterly goal. And I can almost guarantee that they're not going to do it, and that they know they're not going to do it. Now, I've got this suspicion that Square Enix are straight bullshitting their investors with this entire thing. Because look at their wording. Look at how they repeatedly say, we're going to aim for, but it's wholly dependent on a deadline, whether we can get these projects out in this timeline. They know. I mean, where was it? Depending on the timing at which we release new major titles, and how our development efforts progress. Already laying in the disclaimers for the investors. They are laying in the disclaimers. It'll be so predictable if this actually happens. What I predict is going to happen is they are going to make it look like at this E3 that Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming soon. That is coming, and that it could potentially be before the holiday season this year. But they will do it knowing that development is moving along at a squeaky bum clenching pace, that they are going balls to the walls, hence why they did such a huge wave of recruitment. I mean, we've seen nothing but recruitment news and hundreds of staff from the West being pulled over, even with the recent was it EA or was it EA layoffs? No, Blizzard layoffs. And Square Enix actually tweeted out that if any of those professionals wanted to come to work Square Enix, they could. We even heard someone from the Square Enix project, I think it was the new sub-director from Division 5 who came in, so that they go and they pull loads of cheap staff from Malaysia, I think it was. All of this tells me they are rushing the remake, and they have doubts that they're going to be able to get it, but they're still going to damn well tell us at E3 that it could be coming soon. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they tell us it's coming in December and do what Square Enix have often done. Start getting in pre-orders for Final Fantasy VII Remake in 2019 and then delay it. We've seen it. We've seen it. I mean, it happened with Kingdom Hearts 3, for crying out loud. Look, do I need to say any more? It was supposed to be coming in 2018. You know, now I'm not going to be pedantic enough to say, okay, so there was a little bit of a month delay and it ended up coming in January instead. Big whoop-de-doo. But for these quarterly reports, it is a big whoop-de-doo. It really is. I mean, the number of hoops that I personally have even seen companies that I've worked for jump through just to pull in their metrics a week early, because if it's not a week early, it doesn't go into that report, and if it doesn't go into that report, it has all these kind of connotations for, again, the ridiculously unsustainable business models that they put in place. Is this what you're planning to do? And the fact that Final Fantasy VII Remake is episodic and they only need to get part 1 out, not the whole game, so that makes me think that there's even more incentive that they can just do this, that they can just get the first game out rush, even if it's hurried, even if it's not fully there. They could just make it up in the next 2 episodes. And I mean, that's best case scenario that they make it up. Worst case scenario is they treat the remake like they've treated a lot of their recent games, which were good, but ended 10 hours too short. Ended 10 hours, maybe 15, than it should have, with story being very jumped over. The pacing not being where it needs to be. And if you do that to the remake, Square, if you do that to the remake, just because you wanted to make fiscal quarter 3 of 2020 look good, I will never forgive this company. I will never forgive this company. But I mean, that's purely speculation. What I'm going to quickly cover before I sign out, because it sounds cynical. No, when the developer of some of my personal favourite games, they come out and say, oh, we plan to do well in this quarter. Now, any other time in history, I would have celebrated that. I would have been excited, have been well done. But the fact that I now instantly treat it with cynicism, well, the decisions you've made recently, it invites it, Square. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they're genuinely going to pull a cat out of the bag. Maybe something is coming completely out of left field that even I'm not expecting. But what can that realistically be? I mean, how is it more likely that Square Enix are going to take something from birth to cradle from now until then? Something that is completely wholly unannounced now, and it's going to be out by the holiday of this year. I mean, there's certainly loads of stuff that could do that. Square Enix have been known to fall back on a good remaster and port game, a re-release game. They could be bringing something niche out, like World of Final Fantasy or a new tactics game. Something that could merit an appearance at E3, but realistically, games that niche, they're not going to be making anywhere near that much money. But could it be a combination of those things? Because if we was to combine that with, let's say, the Switch portfolio that's coming out, that's starting to get going now. The wheels are in motion, games are starting to come out, and by the time all of them come out, that's going to be a pretty good portfolio of Square Enix games on the Switch that they might just keep improving. And by the time the residual incomes of that are coming in, that could be going towards the 40 to 50 billion yen target. Some other things that could be doing it, VR. We've not heard about VR, but Square Enix have said they are definitely looking at it. And they have done collaborations with Sony that have been nice money earners. Maybe something's coming through that. Maybe something to do with the PlayStation 5. Square Enix and the PlayStation are fairly synergistic in some of the business dealings that they have. So maybe Square Enix have got some kind of deal there. Another thing that is definitely potential. Because again, I need to stress this is a 50 billion operating income target, not a revenue target. And one of the huge things that is happening around the time, and could be no coincidence, is Square Enix actually planning a whole restructuring of the company. That's right, the 11 business divisions that we've had up until now. So if you don't know, Square Enix are basically divided into 11 business divisions. It's kind of been that way for quite a while now. Squaresoft, into the merger around that era, they had way less. I think they had around about 4 to 6. And they're actually going back to that now. This is the funny thing about companies is, again, when the greasy pole looks like it's drying up, it doesn't matter what you actually do, as long as it looks like you're doing something. Move the papers around, move them around, shuffle. We're trying new shit out. And one of the things they're doing is they're going back from the 11 divisions back to the 4. Now, Square Enix business divisions, the way they run now is kind of 1 to 4 are the main serious ones anyway, like the bulk of the divisions, whereas the other ones, as you move up the divisions, they get more and more niche, more and more small. And the logic back in the day was, the more divisions we have, the more each division can focus on that specific part, on making that specific section really something tasty and juicy and good. They were hoping that there would be a quality increase, that there would be more of a focus. Now they're looking to bring it all back in. Is this Square Enix's plan to trim the fat? Is this another way for them to make up some operating income to massage their numbers? But boom, right there, another potential factor to this quarter 3 goal that isn't just veiled, because that's the thing, guys, it is so easy to just cover all of the inner mechanics of a company's sales targets with just the phantasm of a game that is still 99.7% speculation. Let's be honest, that's what it is. Like, to just cover everything that Square Enix is doing with just the whisper of a dream that we all want to hear and we want to believe that it could be. I don't want the remake to be treated that way, and in fact when we actually look at the company as a whole, even the fact that we're assuming this huge 50 billion target could even be coming from a AAA HD game, that within itself is a presumption that we can't make if we go to Square Enix's actual where they get their money from. Right, digital entertainment net sales trends. So this is separated between HD games, MMO, that's obviously 14, and games for smart devices, PC browser. Look over the years, guys. Look at how much smart device games, the mobile games, microtrans, gacha games, whatever you want to call it. Look how much they are now the bulk of Square Enix's earnings. As the years have gone on, I mean, even between 2017 and 2018, look at the distance between HD games and mobile games. The gap has never been bigger. And now we look into the future. I can't even imagine what that gap is going to be like in 2019, let alone the Q3 of 2020. It could be huge. In fact, it's the majority of their earnings now. So when we see this huge 50 billion target, based on this chart, the fact that we assume it's going to be from HD games, that's actually a foolish assumption to make. And you know where this money could be coming from. Now, this might be a bit bitchy, but honestly, Square, when you do shit like this, you invite it upon yourself. So let's just pull up digital entertainment for smart devices and PC browser. This is Square Enix's own chartment thingy. I want you guys to see what's missing. Can you see what's missing from there? I'll give you a hint. There is one title on there that earned $518.4 million US dollars, yet it's not being announced in their fiscal report. Can you guess what it is? A mobile title that has made insane amount of cash, but Square Enix for some reason want to just disassociate from. They never talk about it openly in public. They've never advertised it themselves. Even with the game it was associated to, they never once showed it off. They never once mentioned it as being part of the universe. Of course, I am talking about Final Fantasy XV, A New Empire. I'm going there because, for real, it could just be something like that. We could be thinking it's remake, and it could be something as shitty as Square Enix now just getting their greasy little share of that entire endeavor and feeding it into the company's finances. Because how much are you getting for it, Square? What is your cut? You've never announced it before. You're hiding it from your fiscal reports. You've not shown jack shit. You know, you think by being silent about it that most of us fans aren't still aware. And 518.4 million, and that is going up every single day. Remember, this game was making $1 million a day in the month of January. And it can all completely depend on when they're going to funnel that in. However they choose to do that, into their company's finances, because looking at the report, I don't see it on there, which is kind of funny, really. Oh god, I'm such a cynical bugger now. I really hope I'm wrong. Honestly, I'm going to say it. If anyone from Square Enix is listening, or if just Karma is listening, when I ended up being wrong about this, and Square Enix are genuinely doing something brilliant, like they're earning this through just being more efficient, releasing some good stuff, some good games, happy sunshine and rainbows, well then I take it back, and Karma will catch up with me later. But the way I look at it and what I've seen, as much as this could be a whole plethora of other things, so again, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Just Cause 4 incentives, a company restructure, you know, mobile games are their dominating financial income, so maybe they just, you know, do some very clever things with that, funneling that FF15 Empire money in from somewhere, or capitalizing on some of the more emerging kind of markets, you know, things like the Switch, again, VR. It could be any number of those possibilities, but I'm actually going to make my personal guess that because they know, Square Enix know when this bad boy is coming. They know. So they know their deadline. And just when I think that with the pressure, the deadline, the need to pull a huge influx of cash out of nowhere, I think the possibility that they are going to try to rush the remake and higher ups are going to force Nomura, Katase to potentially cut corners on this product to cut story to just get the first bit out, or don't even necessarily get the first bit out. You know, anything that you miss, no, don't worry about it too much. You can do it in the other sections. But even if you do get just the first part out, don't necessarily matter if it comes out in 2019, as long as we make it look like it is, as long as we get to a stage where we can start getting some pre-orders in and massaging the numbers, again getting some cash in, and then release it just in early 2020 at some point. Don't do it, Square. Do not do it. That for me would just be a game over. No, on the flip side, I could be wholly wrong, and the remake could be in a decent state. It could be, as Nomura has actually said, he said that they were ahead of expectations, that it was going smoothly, that they were really happy, it was progressing along nicely, that even certain gameplay elements were getting refined, and we knew that because certain people within the company were trying it out, and they were saying that they were wholly satisfied with how it felt, which means a lot of the mechanics had to be quite far along. So I could be completely wrong, and this is a legit Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's actually coming late 2019. It's in a good working state, and it's great, and there's nothing wrong with it, and Square Enix just know they're going to make a shitload of money from it because it's Final Fantasy VII Remake. And that's going on top of all the other things that are happening, the restructure and the games and incentives and initiatives and whatnot, DLC, and that's why they've got such a big target. But the thing is, if they were that confident, again, why would they need to disclaimer at least 3 times in this fiscal year that it is wholly dependent on if they can reach deadlines, and that the deadlines could be a factor in why they might not reach that goal? It tells me that you're not wholly confident and yet you're rushing, Square. You are rushing. And if there is one product on this planet that you cannot rush, it is one of the most beloved games of the 90s. Your entire legacy, your entire reputation, credibility. You might think it worth it to try to rush the remake, to try to massage a single fiscal quarter, but honestly, you fuck this up, you balls this up, I can guarantee, promise you one thing that will happen. Every fiscal quarter thereafter will suffer, because you will not be taken seriously as a developer ever again. Ever. I'm serious. You will lose so many customers. The implications of you rushing the remake, and this might sound strong, this might be heavy. Some of you might be watching this, you've never even played the original 7. Some of you think it's overrated. I mean, you might be thinking, oh, come on now, Pez, you're just a Final Fantasy fanboy. No, I'm serious. Regardless of me being a fanboy, 7 Remake is the most wanted game. It is the cornerstone of Square Enix. It is everything that has made them who they are today. And it will be a direct reflection of everything that they will be going forward. This game right here, I'm not joking. I mean, there is a reason why for years straight, this has been the most anticipated game in Famitsu articles, polls and threads for years now. It's been the most anticipated game of all time. All eyes are on you. And if you screw it up because you want to meet an arbitrary fiscal goal, you are going to be dead in the eyes of so many fans, and you will be dead in the eyes of me, Square Enix. So best of luck with that. Right guys, I'm done. I've covered just about everything I can with this, so something huge is happening, and I really want to know what you guys think. Of all of the different things that I've laid out as a possibility, or that I see as a possibility, the Square Enix restructuring is definitely an interesting one. I might talk about in the future what I think they might be doing, but I definitely want to know what you guys see as the most likely option. I see that there has to be something big behind it. Definitely in the comment section I want to see some sort of insight into what you think, because so many of the articles and the comments I've seen has just been people being dismissive, like this, oh, the remake ain't coming, the Avengers project ain't coming. Okay, then what is? Because that 50 billion yen target, while it might be wholly pulled out of the ether of Square Enix's arse, I still have no doubt, however, Square Enix must have something in mind to be set in that kind of target. And I want to hear what it is, rather than the people who just go out and flippantly say what it isn't, because that is absolutely of no value. And that's the kind of thing that just kills conversation rather than actually stimulates any. So Go wild, guys, go wild. But I'll be sure whatever comes out to keep you in the loop of it. Because regardless of Square Enix shenanigans, this game is so dear to me. So dear to me. I can't, I mean... I can't even express it properly, but I'm sure for most of you who, you know, 7 was the game that defined your childhood. It was a game that gave me a childhood. And it was a game that moved me and still moves me this day in ways that I can barely even fully understand. You know, it's something deeply subconscious and something so dearly beloved to me that I don't care what you do, Square Enix. I'd rather wait until 2021 if that's what it takes. Just for the heart, the soul, and the essence, and something that we can all be proud of to represent FF7 actually gets produced. Because for me, this may be one of your last chances to prove yourself, Square. To prove that you are truly a company still worth following, and that you've not become completely beholden to your shareholders, and that true creativity isn't just fated to suffer under corporatism with you from here on out. I really don't want that. So here's to the best 2019 October to December-ish Christmas period ever. Hopefully. But excuse me if I don't hold my breath. Until the next video, guys. Kubo!